Okay, we are now going to reconvene the Budget Committee, and we will move to public testimony, public hearing. It is a public hearing. Do I need to like gavel the public hearing open and then gavel it closed later? Okay, the public hearing is now open. And we're going to hear from those folks either via email or via Zoom that would like to comment on the various parts of tonight's budget. So we're going to permit or allocate, let me put it that way, 3 minutes per person. We do have a timekeeper taking care of that. And what I would ask of those in the listening audience, the attendees who want to be part of that testimony opportunity, is that if you've done your 3 minutes and you'd like to speak again, please let's wait until everyone else has filtered through, and then we'll come back and see if anybody has additional comments to make, if that's the case. And generally we take information, and we may ask a clarifying question, but generally there's not a lot of back and forth, since it's the first time we've probably heard this information and we may not have answers. So it will all become part of the public record though. And at that, I'm going to turn it over to Dylan Blaylock. He is our representative from Clackamas County that will be monitoring this for us this evening and facilitating the attendance of speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Parks.
Can I interrupt you? Can we do introductions of the committee members for the public who may not know you all?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't think of that. Yeah. If I may, I'll just kind of go from my screen. We'll have just tell us whether you're a budget committee member and or whether you're county commissioner or citizen member. So I'm Wilda Parks and I'm a citizen member. And Sonia, you're next.
Sonia Fisher, Clackamas County Commissioner.
Okay, Mr. Commissioner Humberston.
Ken Humberston, Clackamas County Commissioner.
Gary.
I'm Gary Schmidt, County Administrator.
Jan. Jan Lee.
And Jan Lee, a community member from Sandy.
Elizabeth Comfort.
I'm Elizabeth Comfort, the Interim Finance Director for Clackamas County.
James. Jim, you're unmuted.
Oh, Jim, Clackamas County Chair. Jim Bernard.
Thank you. Sean.
Sean Coldwell, citizen member.
Paul, Commissioner Savas.
Paul Savas, Clackamas County Commissioner.
Okay, on.
In Lee, citizen member.
Tom.
Tom Feely, citizen member from unincorporated North Clackamas County.
Commissioner Schrader.
Commissioner Schrader, Martha Schrader, Clackamas County Commissioner.
Drenda.
Hello, I'm Drenda Howett, Commission Staff Manager.
Okay, and then we have two others of the technical crew online with us also. So, okay, and then
Rich Marvin and Garrett Teague from Public and Government Affairs.
Oh, thank you, because I didn't know, I couldn't tell who they were. So thank you. So, and like I said, Dylan Blaylock is going to talk us through the routine for this evening and let the folks know how it will be conducted. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Parks. And let me apologize ahead of time. I have a 1.5-year-old in the house and he tends to be acting up a little bit right now for some reason. Hot dogs usually do the trick. That is not the case right now. So I'm Dylan Blaylock with the county's Public and Government Affairs Department. Thank you to all attendees joining us for the public comment period for the general county budget. Here's how this will work. If you have a comment to make and you're on Zoom, please utilize the raise hand feature now. The raise hand button is on the Zoom bar. That's at the top or bottom, depending on your device. If you're on the phone, and I see that we do have some on the phone, and you would like to give a comment, you can hit *9. That lets me know that you have your hand up and I will direct you as to when to speak. I will let attendees know when it is their specific time to relay their comments. Those posing questions are asked to provide their name, areas or cities of residence, and keep comments under 3 minutes. I will be timing all speakers. Once a comment has ended, I will see if any members of the Budget Committee would like to go ahead and address it. If there is, please raise your hand, and that's a cue to me that somebody would. If there are multiple, I will leave it to Drenda to go ahead and sort that out. If I don't see any after a few seconds, I will move on to the next comments. So again, the Budget Committee members, if you would like to respond to something, be sure that you raise your hand. We will also, as Chair Park said, we will also ask that all attendees posing comments wait until everyone in the audience who wants to pose their first comment is done doing so. I will let you know when it is time to bring up any other comments. Lastly, for those of you who do not have the ability to provide comments over Zoom or on the phone, if you're watching on YouTube, for example, you can email in a comment to be read by me. I will go ahead and share my screen to give that, make it easier. Oh, right there. You can see the email address on your screen now. It is clacconews@clackamas.us. Again, clacco, like Clackamas County, news@clackamas.us. If, again, when you do have comments and you give them over email, do provide your name and area of residence and keep your comments to under 3 minutes. I will read those directly. We do have a few emails to share. And with that, we will get started. So I see we have, again, if you're on Zoom, please utilize the raise hand feature. The first one that we have, the handle is Parrot Creek. So Parrot Creek, if you are on the line, you are on with the members of the Budget Committee. I see that you have unmuted yourself, so please your name, your area of residence, and keep your comments under 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Hello to the committee. For the record, this is Simon Fulford, Executive Director of Parrot Creek Child and Family Services. We are based in Oregon City and serve children and families across the county. I just wanted to address the committee. I know you have a very difficult and unenviable task ahead of you. I just want to advocate for Parrot Creek and the many nonprofit community-based providers serving children and families, providing some of the critically needed essential services. And I would say now more than ever is the need to preserve these services and if even possible to increase funding. We know that in these times of COVID-19 and economic challenge, that families kind of disadvantaged, poorer families, families of people of color communities are coming under increased stress and strain and hardships. And we need to make sure that we as a community can meet those needs, and your nonprofit partners are well placed to support them. I'd like to also speak and kind of share on behalf of the Safe Kids Clackamas, a coalition of kind of frontline child serving organizations that also support this point of view. And I know you have difficult choices with your own county budget, and also really encourage you to advocate with our state legislatures about making adequate investments in the state budget, and to not embark on a slash and burn approach, but to make targeted resources that will spend money in the short term that actually saves money in the long term, as opposed to save money in the short term and triple or quadruple or 10 times your costs in the long term when those acute problems have become worse. I'll stop there. I'll hand my time to others, but thank you very, very much for allowing me to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Simon. Next, I'm going to bring over the handle here is Michelle Vinkor. Michelle Vinkor. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, I see that you have, please give your name, your area or city of residence, and keep your comments under 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Vinkor. I'm the Executive Director for NAMI Clackamas, which is located in Milwaukee. And while I do no longer live in Clackamas County, I have children who use your services who do, both in Milwaukee and in West Lynn. I want to thank you for the time that you're being here and taking public testimony. I would not want to be in your shoes right now when the need is on the rise and budget cuts are looming. I listened to you earlier, and you have a lot of tough decisions to make right now. But I want to take a few minutes to review a recent report that came out from our neighbor to the north, Washington, a neighbor enough like us that we can infer a similarity in responses. The report says that we're expecting a surge in stages from this pandemic, and it'll differ depending on the effectiveness of the services we provide, our response, and the populations that are being impacted. Anxiety is expected to increase in the next 2 to 3 months, depression 2 to 6 months, peaking in 9 months, and which could coincide with a second wave, making that even worse. We've already seen a spike in suicides, but they say the highest risk of suicides would be October through December. So we can expect that when that's already a high rate now. Return to baseline for most will be around February of 2021, assuming the pandemic does not reach additional social and economic waste on us. 4 to 6% of our residents can be expected to develop PTSD, and the highest could be among our first responders and our medical personnel. Furthermore, the report states that responses to disaster can be provided and resilience increased by developing social connections, developing a sense of purpose, becoming adaptive, and focusing on hope, all of which I want to remind you are things that are taught in all of our NAMI classes, both families and peers. Community support groups, volunteers, and again, this is in the report, and all manner of social organizations and clubs can be developed to help reduce behavioral health symptoms and leverage the depleted and unavailable medical and therapeutic services throughout 2020 or 2021 and 2020. Approximately half of the individuals who experience a behavioral health diagnosis during this time will also develop a substance-related disorder and vice versa. So both are expected to increase. Commissioners and Budget Committee, prior to COVID-19, there were already challenges, and we did not maintain an adequate workforce and did not provide access to mental health and substance use recovery services when people needed them. Now we are looking at a spike in need just when we're looking at a reduction in costs. I urge you to work with H3S, about behavioral health and the health clinics, to avoid any general fund reductions and to preserve all of our safety net services. I'm also asking you to take immediate and strong actions to work with OHA, the state, and on national levels where you can for the preservation of behavioral health funds, the loss of which will mean the loss of matching federal funds and further impacting your ability to serve our residents and to even increase the services so vitally needed. This is your call to action to make sure we take the steps needed to preserve more lives lost, to prevent more lives lost, not as a direct result of COVID-19, but from the disruption it has caused in our county. Thank you very much for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Michelle. Next up, we have Melissa Earlbaum, familiar name. Melissa, let's get you over. Okay, Melissa, you are on. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Melissa Earlbaum, the Executive Director for Clackamas Women's Services. And just for the record, we serve survivors of domestic and sexual violence, human trafficking, elder abuse, and so forth. And I just want to point out something that you're all probably acutely aware of, but as we go through this pandemic, we know that the resolution is to have people isolate from each other, to have the social distancing, and that's, you know, the virus sort of thrives in the environment of social activity, but domestic violence thrives in the environment of isolation. And so the further we are experiencing isolation in our families, the more severe and complex we're seeing with the violence. For example, we've had an increase in the number of requests for emergency shelter by 60% in the last 2 months, and that's already a highly requested service and a need. And we actually are housing 55% more families in our emergency shelter program since COVID started, because we simply have to bring more people in due to the high lethality that they're facing in their homes at this time. We know that safe and stable housing has always been one of the best tools that we've had to intervene in domestic violence, elder abuse, and child abuse. But now it's our most requested service, and this is punctuated by the fact that we're in a public health emergency. If we don't address this now, it's just going to simply continue to compound upon itself. And so I'm here just to advocate for obviously continuing to invest in programs like Clackamas Women's Services and our other nonprofit partners who are on the ground every day providing these life-saving services. But I also wanted to just point out, Clackamas Women's Services served on the advisory council for the Here Together measure, for example. And that measure was really designed so that we could take our homeless service response to the next level, not necessarily to, replace what we're doing now or backfill what we're doing now, but to actually move us forward. And I just want to point out that we have a lot of needs right now. We need to get the families. We have, like I said, 55% more families in our emergency shelter program. We need to get them into housing, and we want to do that now. We know that the need is going to continue to increase in addition to what was already there. So I just urge you all to really think about how we're providing homeless services, emergency shelter services throughout the county. This is our most critical tool to help families get safe, and that we think about those funds that are coming down in the future. How do we potentially leverage some existing resources to maybe get them out on the front end? I don't know how that's done, maybe by loans or other things, but also to encourage you not to make drastic cuts to that system, assuming that the Here Together funds or that measures funds will come down later, because it really needs to be an add-on. We have increasing and growing need in this area. And then lastly, I just want to mention, as a partner to the Safe Kids Clackamas Coalition, again, just another plug for community-based nonprofits. We work in partnership with the county. We provide critical life-saving services. And as community-based nonprofits, we can be responsive and nimble. We're very representative of the communities we're serving. Many of our staff have their own lived experience, and we're highly trained in these areas, and we're efficient investment for the county to make. So please consider us as you're looking through your budgets. Rely and look to your community-based nonprofits and partner with them to continue to get services out quickly. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Melissa, for that. Okay, I'll go ahead and remind attendees that if you have a comment that you would like to make to the budget committee, you can go ahead and use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're one of the callers, you can go ahead and hit *9 and it lets me know. I see no other ones, so I'm going to go ahead and move, excuse me, to the, where's my water? I apologize for that. I will go ahead and move to the emails that I have gone ahead and received already. The first is from Molly McKnight, who is from Oregon City. Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed fiscal year 2021 Clackamas County budget. On pages 52 and 53 of the proposed budget, it appears that it is being proposed that Stone Creek Golf Club will no longer contribute revenue to county parks. When the forestry program was directed in 2012 to accomplish an accelerated timber harvest program to sell much larger than normal annual amount of timber to pay off the debt on the golf course, it was with the goal of the golf course contributing about $450,000 of annual revenue to county parks. It appears that the amount of annual revenue from the golf course that went to county parks was $250,000 in each fiscal year 17-18 and fiscal year 18-19, then was lowered to $200,000 in fiscal year 19-20. The amount for fiscal year 19-20 appears on page 53 to have been lowered to only $100,000 and may, in actuality, end up being $0. Now I am disturbed to see that the amount of revenue proposed to go from Stone Creek Golf Course toward county parks in the proposed fiscal year 2021 budget is $0. Under, quote, significant issues and changes, toward the bottom of page 53, the statement is made, quote, defeasing the debt helped ensure a long-term sustainable revenue stream for the county parks program, end quote. It appears that a decision has been made to put all of the revenue from the golf course back into the golf course and contribute no revenue to county parks. The accelerated harvest program resulted in much more timber being harvested in a year or two than would normally have been done in order to pay off the golf course in exchange for a more dependable revenue source for county parks. Revenue from the golf course was deemed more reliable and dependable than revenue from timber sales, since timber sale revenues depend on log markets and other factors. This accelerated harvest was essentially a departure from a sustainable harvest, which is harvesting as much timber a county timber lands would grow in a year. This departure lowered the annual sustainable harvest level for the forest program. I am dismayed to see that it appears that the forest program compromised future income from timber sales to pay off the golf course so that the golf course could contribute more money annually to county parks. Yet now, if I am interpreting the proposed budget correctly, the golf course will be contributing nothing to county parks. It seems that the golf course has never contributed the $450,000 amount that was projected at the time the accelerated timber harvest was approved, and now appears to be contributing nothing to county parks. Why is this? Thank you, Molly McKnight, resident of Oregon City.
So I raised my hand. Am my mic's on? I don't think that's true. We may want to clarify that. I was trying to find my papers. For one thing, the golf course has been closed for quite some time now. And so revenues are down. So that would obviously reduce the amount of contribution. But I don't believe there's any intention to eliminate contribution from the golf course to county parks. I don't know if anyone wants to respond to that, or we can just ask and get clarification tomorrow. Thank you.
Why don't we try to get clarification? Because I think it's certainly going to be an item of interest in our tight budget, but I would certainly see why they wouldn't, they're not open. So I'm not going to be able to do that.
They are now open, but they were closed.
Right, they were, yeah, for 3 months.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, building on what Jim just said, Gary, just to find out, I think that what the message is being conveyed here is that there's an assumption that maybe monies are being redirected back into the golf course as opposed to county park. So if we can make sure that if that's the case, we need to know about it. But just that clarification, I think that was one statement that was made in the email.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we'll get an answer for you, committee members.
Okay, very good. And thank you again for that comment, Molly McKnight of Oregon City. We have 2 more emails. One has come in. I'll remind attendees on Zoom, you please utilize the raise hand feature if you want to make a comment. This one is more of a question from Mary Ellen Fitzgerald of Rhododendron. A general budget question. Does the county think that fewer taxpayers will pay their property taxes this November given the economic downturn? If so, is the county projecting what that non-payment rate will be? Normally, it's about 4%, right? So is the county planning a budget with less revenue? I hear Lane County is projecting 6% less. Thank you. Again, Mary Ellen Fitzgerald, Rhododendron.
Can we ask Elizabeth to respond to that since she built the budget?
Our typical rate of collection is 95%, and we're looking at a 2% reduction from that.
And we're budgeting a reduction. That's included in our reduction.
That is correct. We are budgeting a reduction.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one else, moving on to the next one. This one is from Jeanette DeCastro in unincorporated Clackamas County near Happy Valley. I listened to the district attorney presentation with great interest and with some concern. District Attorney Foote emphasized that the budget is high level and that workload for district attorney office staff is already high. My follow-up questions. Are staff able to participate in the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council? Are staff able to participate in continuing education on EDI topics? Is there the time and funding to do so? I see great value in learning about and correcting implicit biases, particularly since, as District Attorney Foote says, the District Attorney Office is in the, quote, people business. Overall, how many of each county department is able to participate in the EDI Council and in EDI trainings? How is that wrapped into each department's budget? Thank you for fielding my questions. Again, that was Jeanette DeCastro from unincorporated Clackamas County near Happy Valley.
I can answer that if you'd like. Chairs, Chair Bernard and Chair Parks. So yes, we have internally a staff committee called the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council, or EDIC. It is open to any county employee. Every department is asked to have at least one representative on the EDIC, but it is voluntary. It is not mandatory yet. I'm considering making it mandatory that every department have one rep, but for now that is voluntary. Not every department is currently represented, but I'd say 3/4 of county departments have at least one staff member who is on the EDIC. Some of that is considered a work time, but not all of their work. And in fact, they've asked me that all of their work on this staff committee should be considered work time. And I'm also open to making that change as well, but there will have to be some bargaining conversations about that. So all to say is there's opportunities for growth with the EDIC, absolutely, and I'm open to that. And when our Office of Equity and Inclusion is formed with our new staff members, that will be one of the first things I'll ask them to work on.
Ken has his hand up. Ken.
I just wanted to say that I would also suggest that she direct her question to District Attorney-elect John Wentworth. He's going to be our new district attorney, and my suspicion is he'd be very interested in that question and potentially very helpful.
Very good. That is all the emails we have received. So I will give a final call, as it were, to the attendees in attendance right now. If you are on the phone, you can hit *9 to let me know that you would like to raise your hand. And if you are just joining us via Zoom, you need to go ahead and select the raise hand feature. Again, that's in the Zoom bar. It can be on the top or bottom, depending on your device. So this is the last call. Probably give it 5 to 10 seconds more.
Nope.
Seeing no other public comments, Chair Parks.
Thank you. Having no additional public comments, I will close the public hearing. Gavel down. Yeah. And we will get ready to recess for today. We have planned and will continue to plan to reconvene tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. So if anybody out there in the listening public wants to continue with us, that is when we will be back. So if there are no other final comments for this evening, I will recess this meeting until tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Good night. Have a good evening.
Good night.